And so the summer sunlight comes undone in September. The shadows begin to slant and the line between light and dark sharpens, dispersing the hazy soft blue of summer. The trees along the trail in our local park have lost their soft green as Mother Nature prepares to paint the town red with orange, red, and yellow. The garden has changed as well. Leaves and plants that were once lushly green have begun to wither. There are almost few to no buds. And although my spices and tomatoes remain in growth mode, the sunflowers bit the dust, sad to say. So I'd like to say that I think we had how many sunflowers, Larry? 10? 10, like 7, 8-foot sunflowers. So, with flowers that big. So I'd like to say that we harvested all the sunflowers and dried them all out and we'd eat them throughout the winter. But that was way beyond our capabilities. So we just put them in the back and left them for the animals. So my joy is just watching them grow and watching them live and feeding the bees. And so while we might rue the loss of the hazy days of summer, autumn beckons with its sunny, cool days and nights and trees awash with the palette of autumn. It almost seems to be a good trade-off for summer until we remember that winter follows with its biting cold and long hours of darkness. I can bear the former, sort of, but it's the latter, it's the darkness that I dislike. And change, of course, is not reserved for the seasons. Things around us change, often too rapidly, and often go in a direction that we might not expect or approve of. And as we go through some familial, societal, religious, and political changes, it sometimes feels as if we are living at a time that the world has never seen before. And too often we move into the ain't it awful mode. But we know that Jesus lived at such a perilous time. The Roman Empire cared only about extracting taxes from a struggling people. In this, they were no different from any other empire, ancient or modern, because empires of any sort are never kind and never gentle. Empires wear blinders made of money bags. They dig their hearts into small areas, even as their territory expands, and build high walls to keep out unwelcome ideas and unwelcome people. Their way is the only right way, and woe to those who think differently. Money and power are not only everything, they are the only thing. Jesus died because he challenged that empire. And the empire fought back in the only way it understood. It executed him to shut him up. But we know that Jesus did not come to grow any kind of empire, and he never wanted to be a king. He never wanted to shut people up. Instead, he came to heal the brokenhearted and free the oppressed and change the way people lived. He wanted people to transform themselves into being apostles of God and not ancient agents of Caesar. Throughout his life, he engaged the powers that would eventually kill him, trying to teach them that there was another way, the way of God, the way of the kingdom, where all are God's beloved, where the lion lies down with the lamb, and no one makes war anymore because there is only one body to wound, our own. Very early on, those who became the institutional church changed the message of Jesus because it came at a high personal cost. They had to keep their lamps trimmed so that they could be ready to fix things and help their neighbor. They had to love, and so the church adopted the playbook of empire. As they happily moved into Caesar's palace in Rome, it was easier to remake Jesus as a sovereign king than it was to treat everyone, including one's enemies or opponents, as beloved children of God. It was easier to align with secular leaders who would gladly enforce church law to unify the empire. It was easier to label dissenters as heretics and enemies. It was easier to hunt them down and burn their bodies and their books and their churches and their synagogues than it was to talk to them and to consider their side of the story. Within the paradigm of empire, religious, political, or economic, virtue too often becomes moot and integrity meaningless. Empathy is dismissed as weak or new age. Our first and second readings become outliers, quaint reflections on a time that could and would never exist. But there's a whole lot of good news, people. And the good news, the very good news, is that empathy, virtue, and integrity always exist as they existed in the time of Jesus. Empires, with all their power, might bluster, and lies have never been able to extinguish the look of love. So we see love, integrity, empathy, and virtue in any number of public heroes, most particularly Victor and Lydia. Does anybody know who they are? The two little elementary students in Minnesota who threw their bodies upon their classmates to protect them, and in the process suffered really serious wounds. We see virtue and integrity and empathy in Todd Beamer and his fellow passengers on Flight 93, who protected the US Capitol with their lives. We see virtue and empathy and integrity in other 9/11 heroes, the firefighters, the police officers who walked into burning towers to save their fellow human beings, in the window washers and stockbrokers who guided people to safety through smoke and ash and fire, and then went back in to save some more. We see virtue, integrity, and empathy in Sandy Hook first grade teacher Victoria Soto, who hid her students in closets and cabinets and then faced the shooter who killed her, and the many other teachers who were just like Victoria. We know people of virtue, integrity, and empathy who cancel out hate and revenge. The Holy Rosary Sisters, who spent their entire lives serving the poorest of the poor in Africa, our beloved Terry and Maureen and Bernie, and who is the sister who worked in Zambia for 40 years? Holly. The late Sue Plastaris, who fought tirelessly for patients' rights. Dr. David Rosenberg, who tried to ensure that the children of Vineland, New Jersey reached their highest potential. The Limbachs, sitting right here today, who established a program to provide jobs to those formerly incarcerated. The teachers, the nurses, the social workers, the workers for justice who are with us every Sunday. We see our neighbors volunteering for Meals on Wheels, tutoring children, or running errands for the incapacitated. One of my neighbors, a retired physician, looks after one of her disabled patients who is abandoned by his family. All these people, everybody sitting here today, are purveyors of empathy who take their duty to love their neighbor very seriously. And so, my friends, virtue, integrity, and empathy have not and never have been in short supply, despite the deepest of darknesses and the comments of the empire to the contrary. We hold this reality close to our hearts when we feel despair and slog through the most wrenching of changes, the times that try our souls and the souls of everyone else. Folks who live and breathe empathy, who refuse to accept the narrative that violence and revenge accomplish more than charity and love, are the true heroes, the true saints, the true martyrs. Cruelty is never the new normal, and we should never allow such a terrible thing to change us. The philosopher Eric Hoffer said it far better than I. Compassion alone stands out from the continuous traffic between good and evil. Compassion is the antitoxin of the soul. Where there is compassion, even the most poisonous impulses remain relatively harmless. The survival of a species might well depend upon the ability to foster a boundless capacity for compassion. And so, my friends, when things get rough, as they surely will, hold on to virtue, compassion, and empathy. Let them light the way, even as we all stumble through the darkness, because it is the only way that we will be able to crawl our way to the other side with our souls intact.